Hey guys, it's Andy Coleman, and I'm going to do a podcast today with Jessica Baskies. She's from Boca Raton, Florida. She's a real estate agent that is absolutely crushing it right now using social media. So, hey, Jess, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Andy, for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
You're very welcome. So, I wanted to interview you today because we've been friends for a long time now. I don't know if you remember this, but my very first time meeting you was like day one of real estate back in the Boca Raton office. Do you remember that?
Oh my God, I do. Yeah, I actually do remember that. That was your first day of real estate.
Was my first day of real estate.
Wow.
So it's just crazy how far you've come and how far I've come in those past few years. So that's why I wanted to interview you. Like, you're doing things differently than most real estate agents. You're doing social media. So I wanted to really pick your brain on how you're doing this, how you're getting your leads, and how you grew your business.
Sure, absolutely. Happy to share.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Go on. So how did you get started in real estate?
Awesome. Well, I just hit my fifth year of since getting my license. So I think one of the cool things is when you and I met, we were both getting started. I was a little ahead of you, but I came from another brokerage. I was still figuring out what the heck I was doing here in real estate. So it's cool because I think we were both young and hungry and made it happen pretty quickly, considering the average realtor at this point is out of the business. So essentially, I got into real estate now 5 years ago, started with a boutique brokerage. I really liked it. I got a lot of good experience there, a lot of shadowing, but the brokerage was far away. I joined for the brokers, and it just was like every time I needed some training, I was driving an hour to get it. So that's where the EXP model became really attractive because, as you know, it's an online model. So being somebody who's driving constantly all day, every day, hours away just to get, some shadowing opportunities, some training, I just knew it wasn't super sustainable for where I was living and I wasn't prepared to move further south. So anyways, about a year into real estate, I switched over to EXP. And I would say that's where I really got my start on social media. So then what happened was I actually was utilizing social media in a very small way. Like I was, same thing, getting my feet wet, figuring out how I wanted to use it, if I even liked it. And in the meantime, I was working, what everybody tells you to do in real estate, do open houses and work your database. So that's what I was doing. And for the first few years, it worked. It was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't the most, like money producing that I've made, but it was a good place to
How good
start.
was it?
You
Just
know,
talk us through that.
yeah, so my first year in real estate, I did not do very well. So my first year, I was still learning. I was figuring out what the heck I was doing. I would call that like my training year. And I sold
Yeah.
like just under $1 million, which in our area is not great. Like that's mostly rentals and just doing some small deals here and there. So it was a
So
good training year.
about
Probably.
25,000 in
I
commission.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, which makes sense because I was working at a law firm before that. I came from the legal
That's
background.
right.
I was a legal assistant, just kind of working the 9 to 5 full time type of thing. And so what I did when I got my license was I went part time at that job. And then between being part-time there and then part-time in real estate, the income was fine. But of course, it's not what you got into real estate for, to be part-time and still working in the law firm. So my goal was to leverage out of that. Took me about 7 months. So once I hit 7 months of doing real estate sales, I felt like I was in a place I was comfortable. I had some stuff under contract, went full-time into real estate. So my first year wasn't great, wasn't anything that you would interview me about.
But you didn't give up. You didn't give up. That's the whole
No.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
which is good.
right. You're right.
So then what happened in your second year then? Because I think that's when things started to get good for you.
Yeah, so my second year was good. Did a few $1 million in sales my second year. Definitely started to
Oh,
pick up traction. I got into real estate at 23 years old, so there was definitely an
wow.
intimidation factor that I had to get over. So I think a lot of that, like first and second year, was not only being brand new to an industry, knowing nothing. I know all realtors can relate to that. Getting into it and being like, "What the heck did I just get myself into?" Because you dive off the deep end, no matter how great your mentorship is, you're thrown in. we work for ourselves. Nobody's holding your hand here. So for that first year or two, I was really getting over the intimidation of not only being young, being talked down to, people telling me I looked like I was 16,
Ooh.
the gamut of things, to then like, getting confidence through just doing deals. And I wish I could tell you there was a quicker way around getting over some of this like imposter syndrome, but really a lot of my confidence came from just doing the thing and doing 25 open houses in a row and working with clients and just, keep telling myself I'm a realtor. I'll figure this out. I can do it. At the time, I hadn't even bought my own home. So I had no idea what I was doing in real estate, but seemed like a cool opportunity. And I'm glad where it brought me today. So anyways, like you were asking, in year two, I did, I think, a few $1 million in sales. And then year three, I hit just under 10 million. So that was where it was like, okay, we're making moves. This is working. And that's a great paycheck for your third year in real estate.
So for people that don't know, when she says $10 million, we basically get a percentage, usually it's about 2.5%, give or take. And she made about $250,000 after her second year in real estate, which, for the average real estate agent, that's phenomenal. Most real estate agents never make that in their entire career, like never. So for her to do that after only 2 years, that's nothing short of like spectacular.
Thank you. It literally feels so weird to say because it's like, it's not something that I like typically talk about, but I'll share my numbers. And if you do the math, you can figure it out. But you're right. Like,
Yeah.
it is important for realtors to know like the opportunity
Yeah.
here. I mean, thankfully we do live in an area where we are in higher price points, but at the end of the day, like, you do need to build up that confidence to work luxury. And it all goes, through and through to like getting those first few deals. The more confident you get, the better you'll do. It's like when we're stuck in that imposter syndrome and that like my first year, I didn't even feel comfortable telling people I was a realtor. That's how unqualified I felt. So breaking through that, doing deals, like I wish I could tell you again that there was an easy way through that, but just doing the thing and then getting better each time. It's really important. So my third year was really when I figured out my lead generation. I finally was
Yeah.
doing really well in real estate. And what that looked like was picking those three buckets. I don't know if you talk about that on your channel at all, but really just going all
Oh.
in on like two big time lead generation pillars. And those were, like you talked about, social media, database, and then I go to a lot of events. So kind of just really nailing down like what three things I wanted to focus on, go all in on, and then build my real estate business from there.
So in my mind, that's actually one thing that you were doing. Because I actually I always say pick one niche and then go full force on that. And your niche was actually social media. That's so the other two things you were talking about, the networking and using your database, that's just a given. Like everybody has to do that no matter what else they're going to be doing. That's a given. You have to network, you have to use your database. That's like, you can't just run a successful business just off of that. Yes, you might be able to make, 50 grand, 100 grand a year just doing that one thing. But as Jess just said, she started focusing on social media and that's when she exploded. That's when she went from, $3 million, which is about 75K, give or take, to 250,000 commission when she started focusing on that one thing, which was social media. So I didn't even know if you realized that, but you actually did pick one niche that was social media. And when you did that, your business exploded.
Yeah, and that was somewhat forced on me. So to go back to that actually was in the very beginning of COVID. So, for the first few years, I was really just going local, working my niche, trying to do my thing down here. And then what I was doing was a lot of events, working and networking with attorneys. It's where I came from. It's what I felt comfortable with. And still to this day, yes, I do. Like you said, I get referrals from attorneys all the time,
Yeah.
but that is also a product of like getting to this point in real estate of building those years. And so it's so funny because those first few years I was like, just go hyper local, just do your thing. And then what happened was, because I was, so networking and database driven, when COVID hit, I had to shut all that down. And I remember
Oof.
actually reaching out to Paul Saperstein, who I know
Yeah.
you've interviewed as well. And I
Yes.
was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm freaking out. I was like he loves to tell this story because like he remembers me calling him being like, I am so concerned. Like my business was literally being in front of people, taking attorneys to coffee, going to the attorney networking events, taking my database out. I grew up down here, so it does help.
Yeah.
So I have a great network and I was getting in front of them, and now all that stopped. And so I
Wow.
remember going to Paul and him being like, okay, well, like you need to pivot, or like, we got to figure this out. And then that's where the social media was born. So that's where I was like, okay, I'm going to just start to get online. If I can't get in front of people in person, it's got to be online. So that's where I really started to focus on Instagram, the podcast, and then those two things, Instagram and Facebook to me go hand in hand nowadays, because I focus on Instagram and then it just post to Facebook, but it's a great way to stay in front of your database. I don't want to knock Facebook.
Yeah. So the most important thing I heard there was you hit a roadblock and then you pivoted. That was like your defining moment. You could have either said, you know what? This is not working, what I was doing before, which is networking, getting in front of people. But instead of doing that, you found a different way to do it. You found a solution. You created, you had a problem and then you created an answer to it. That was like the defining moment of your career in my mind, was going to social media. And then talk a little bit about like what you did exactly on Instagram, a little bit of Facebook, like your podcast, like talk about the details of how that actually made you so much money.
Yeah, absolutely. So with social media, I think the reason why I was able to get successful on that quickly as well is because, like you were talking about from the beginning, it's funny how it all comes together, but I was
Yeah.
incredibly niche focused on Instagram, and not in the way that you would think. So I wasn't like, I'm going to be Boca's best realtor and like, let me share everything you need to know about Boca Raton. That wasn't me. My niche was other agents. And I know that sounds crazy. And people are like, especially when I was getting into it, they were like, why are you doing this? Like, what is the point? But I built up a great agent community. So I was talking to other agents. I was sharing all of my content was geared towards connecting with other realtors. So the agent
Wow.
retreat podcast, my podcast, fully supported by agents for agents. And so it's funny because you hear that and you're like, well, how the heck are you getting business from that? It's agent to
Yeah.
agent referrals. And then some of it, again, has evolved over the years. So now that I have this like agent community built up there, they've sent me a good amount of referrals, and that has now grown its own thing. But now on top of that, I'm bringing back more of a local aspect, especially more as I stepped into luxury this past year. And I'm sharing
Oh.
now like some more luxury stuff that not only do agents want to see, but my local following want to see. So again, it's just a great way not only to grow, but to also utilize that database. Like you were saying, the database, half the gold in my database is the fact that they're on my Facebook and Instagram and they're seeing me in real estate all day, every day. So I
You're saying
actually
it's
was
top of mind for
super,
them.
yeah, it went from like being super niche focused to now like being more about my business. But again, that's evolved over time. Like for 2+ years, all I posted was content for other realtors. And the podcast is still that way. It's still the day in and day out of real estate, interviewing other realtors and all that sort of thing. But like everything I've started with, like you said, has been incredibly niche down.
So, question about that then. So we have a lot to unpack here because I honestly didn't even know that about you. We've been friends for a long time. So when you were talking to other agents, making content for them, we're talking about like agents in different states, right? Like maybe like California, New York, whatever. And then they would send you referrals of people that they knew here or like they knew moving here. Is that what you were mainly saying?
Yeah, exactly. So I grew this agent community. We really connected because I was sharing like just the daily struggle of being a realtor, the day ins, the day outs, and, sharing educational content and then connection content for the most part. So yeah, my original Instagram page was fully like dedicated to realtors. It's like I said, it's evolved now. And now I've brought on some TikTok and, again, like you can evolve over time, but I really can't stress enough the importance of niching down. Now that was a long-term strategy, right? Like it's not like
Yeah.
agents see my content, they're like, I need to refer to her right now. Like again, these are all things that are building on each other. And I think if I've learned anything from hitting year 5, it's that like so much of your business builds on each other. It's a building block business. So much of the business I
Momentum.
have. Yeah. Like I actually just listed a home in Fort Lauderdale and everybody wants to know, how'd you get the listing? How'd you get the listing? He was my first rental client, ever. He rented
Oh,
with me once.
yeah.
He rented with me twice. I helped him buy. And now I am listing it for like double what he bought it for because the market's so amazing. So it
that
builds, it really does.
that speaks music to my ears. Obviously, I'm like the rental king of the entire planet. And that's all I focus on, as you know, and everybody else that watches me knows, I focus on renters. And what Jess just said was her first renter turned into a buyer. And I always say this all the time, renters turn into buyers. And she doesn't even focus on renters, but it still worked for her. So, obviously you don't have to be focused on renters. Like Jess never really focused on renters. I remember when I met her, she didn't really want to do them. She would give me renter referrals at first, but she still did them from, time to time. And it works. It really does work. She even got a luxury deal out of it, which is funny too, because one of my first rental clients, I don't know if I told you this yet, but we did a $3.4 million luxury house. It's an $85,000 commission. And he was literally my first rental client. I don't know if did I tell you that yet?
No, I didn't know that. That's
Oh.
amazing.
It just happened last month. We're closing in like 5 days, cross my fingers. We're closing in like 5 days. Everything's going good. But yeah, that's an $85,000 commission. And he was a renter of mine, one of my first renters. He's exactly what you said. We did a few rentals. He stuck with me. Eventually he wanted to buy. He did really, really well for himself. He's making millions per month. And stay tuned because I interviewed him. So you guys are definitely going to want to see this. You'll want to see this too. It's super cool, like his story and everything. But yeah, it works. Like that's your segue into getting into bigger deals. You can start small, and as you said, you build momentum and keep scaling and growing and growing and growing, and eventually you're going to get these massive deals if you stick with it. Like the whole thing is not giving up. Like Jess, you could have given up multiple times, it sounded like, but you didn't. You persevered, you stuck with it, you got creative, you thought outside the box, you pivoted, and you found other ways to do things, and it worked. I'm like super proud of you because that one time in that office back then, we were both like figuring things out. From then to like what we've done now is so cool. And I really want it to be like an inspiration to everybody out there, like not to give up. I know the market is not like amazing right now. Like Jess, talk about the market a little bit, because we're in a weird time right now where, it's not really a buyer's market. It's not really a seller's market. Like talk about like your experience like going on now, because you do focus a lot on buyers and listings.
Yeah. Yeah, buyers, I would say I'm pretty even split right now between buyers and listings. So I get to see both sides of it, which is really nice. And I think that's a big advantage, especially when you're talking to clients and it's like, oh, that's weird. Like, why is my property sitting on the market? But like, oh, because none of my buyers were out looking this week because it was Labor Day, So it's
Yeah.
like, that's why
Yeah.
your property is sitting, because buyers aren't looking this weekend. I know that because I
And
have a pipeline of buyers sitting here that are not looking
and
over
just
the holidays.
just in general, what do you think the market's doing right now? Like do you think like it's hurting your business having buyers? I mean, you're lucky actually, because you have both. You have buyers and sellers. Like I think you're really well positioned right now. But like, what do you think is going to happen with the market, like in the future?
Yeah, so great question. So I am a firm believer that the crash that everybody was talking about last year is not coming. I never once bought into that in my content. I never bought into it with the fear. I do a lot of like real estate news on my podcast. That's where we differ. Like
Yeah.
I read a lot of real estate news stories and we'll go over like what's trending for the week. And of course, every week we're going on stories that are saying the market's crashing. And then the next story will be the market's doing amazing. And it's so confusing. And so I actually got to a point with my real estate news updates that I was like, I'm not doing these predictions anymore. Like
Oh,
every single one is saying something different. But just from like sheer experience and what I've learned over the last few years is that our inventory that we're down here in South Florida, which is a popular area. A lot of people are moving down here, but our inventory is still so severely low. And I think people aren't taking that into consideration when they talk about where the market's going. Do we have inflation? Absolutely. It's terrifying. It's scary. Prices are high. I just got off a phone with somebody. She was like, I can't believe my grocery bill is literally double. And that's reality. And it's scary. And people are scared. There's going to be fear there. There's been fear in this market for years now about what's going to happen. However, when people talk about like, oh, prices lowered and, there's all these listings sitting now and all these days on markets accumulating, you're not really taking into consideration the bulk of what's going on. And if you're actually looking at the numbers and you're in the market down here, our market's doing really well. And I know agents are struggling. And it sucks. Like, it's not as easy as it was. However, that shouldn't be stopping your business right now. Like there's still a lot of people out looking, like I have buyers under contract. I have a few buyers under contract right now that are getting
yeah,
mortgages. It's
me
funny
too.
because
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
me
it's funny
too.
because I
I
think
have
a lot of
multiple.
realtors think like, oh, nobody's getting a mortgage right now. So that's why my business sucks. Like that's not true. I have multiple buyers in high price points right now that are getting mortgages. And so, I I think some people are at this point where it's like, okay, everybody said the market was crashing last year and it didn't. So there goes that thought, and if those people, by the way, bought last year, their houses would have been 100K cheaper. But no, prices kept rising. Prices are still way up, even from last year, the year before, the year before. So not only are we now in a higher price point, but we have higher interest rates. And the way I see it is people are finally coming to the acceptance of like, I bought into the fear, the market didn't crash, and now I still need a freaking house to buy. So you know what? Yeah, the rate's gonna suck for a little bit, but I'm gonna buy now and then I'll refinance later. I have quite a few buyers who have finally come to that conclusion of like, I was waiting for that market crash. It didn't happen. And now I'm going to buy. So in my opinion, from what I'm seeing just from the day in and day out, I don't see a market crash coming either. I think my buyers are finally starting to realize that that was a story from the past. It was a lot of fear mongering going on because realistically, again, our inventory is so low. I can't stress that enough. I know it seems like you're seeing price decreases, but that's because people priced $1 million over what it's worth. Like
Too high.
those are the people
Yeah.
price decreasing. A good house comes on the market, it's gone. And I still
So
firmly see that.
so let me ask you then. So talking to a few things to unpack here, which I'm really excited right now. So inventory. Let's talk about that for a second. Obviously, we're in South Florida. Honestly, we're in like a bubble of our own. South Florida is different
Sure.
than the rest of the country. So, take our advice with a grain of salt if you're in a different state. You know what I mean? Because Florida is definitely a different beast right now. But
Agreed.
we have what, like about 28,000 properties on the market right now for sale in South Florida. That's on our MLS right now, right? So that's what you're talking about when you say inventory. Now, what was our peak? Because I remember when I first joined, that day I met you, years ago. I believe we had about 85,000 properties on the market at any given time. Is that accurate? Is that what you remember too?
Accurate. However, I will say, and those are good numbers to go by. I will say I'm a big believer in MSI, which is month supply of inventory. A lot of economists, that's all that they'll go by is the month supply of inventory, which is basically saying like if we got no new listings this month, nothing hit the market, how long would it take for our inventory to go away? And that's the number that economists use. It's just been proven to be like a really accurate measure. But of course, like the amount of inventory on the market is important too. But I actually go off of the MSI each month. And yes, like again, MSI is raising or we're getting a little bit more inventory month over month. But the fact is,
You
like,
tell us the numbers.
absolutely. So a balanced market is considered 5.5 months of inventory. So 5.5. So what that means is if in the month of September, we got no new listings here in South Florida, it would take 5.5 months for us to sell off everything that's listed.
Okay.
Where we're at right now is we're still hovering at like 2 to 3. So again, people are saying like, oh my God, like, prices are gonna fall and inventory is gonna be a problem with these high interest rates. Nobody's selling. But how could you say that when we're not even close to a balanced market? We're still in those like high 2s to low 3s. That is so far skewed to favoring the seller still. 5.5
So
would put us at a balanced market. And then we'd have to go above 5.5 to even favor the buyer. So we're not even halfway
mm,
there. And what
ooh,
happened was in COVID times, we hit as low as the 1 month of inventory, meaning if it would take a month for this to all go away. Now we're
I
at like
remember that.
2. Right. So we're
That
like,
got
again,
bad.
like two
That got
months,
really
like
bad.
that's not very high. Like that's still
Well,
a very extreme low supply of inventory.
it seems like it is going up though, right? Because if we only had
Yep.
1 month back then, now we have 2.5, 3 months. We're slowly creeping up back to that 5 range. Do you think we're going to get back to that 5.5 range?
I think it's definitely possible. I know we're talking like super specifically to South Florida, so apologize if
Yeah,
you're in
it's
another
different here.
state. I
Different.
know
It's
this
different.
is
Yeah, it's
like,
different here.
yeah, I know it can be
The national
different.
average is different.
Yeah, I know, like we're not going off of national averages right now just because like, our knowledge is here. But yeah, so we have been creeping up and that's absolutely true. And then there will get to points like busier seasons where again it just plateaus or it goes down again. So I mean, we've been sitting like pretty around still like a very low inventory mark. So could we get closer to a balanced market? Absolutely. I'm just in the mindset of I think it would take something pretty extreme. The reason I say that is because what I think we've all been seeing is if you're sitting on a 2 to 3% interest rate right now, you're not selling. No matter how badly you're busting at the seams
Nope.
of your house, you'll hold
No.
on to that house until these interest rates come
Yes.
back down. And then when the
Yes.
interest rates come back down, then we hit low
And
inventory again. So it's like
yes,
but we haven't gotten out of the low inventory. So I just
I
feel like
know.
it's much more likely that we bounce back to a lower inventory than we bounce back to
So
oversupply.
we're in a very weird position right now. Like, would you say the market might be broken? Because what you just said, like, didn't make any sense. Like, how is this happening right now? Like this is
It's
not normal. Like, did we
yeah,
break the
because
market?
yeah, I mean, we kind of did. Like, who is
Right?
selling their house when they have a 2.5% interest rate? We kind of did break the market a little bit.
Yeah,
So now we're going to have
I,
all these people holding on for dear life to their houses. They're not
something's got to
selling.
give. That's right. Exactly. Like I just did the research on this. So I know the national average right now. It's about 2.5% just nationally. Prices have come down about 2.5%. So that's like the national average, not, including all the states. So
Yeah.
I figured out that, right now something's got to give. Because what you just said doesn't make sense. Like, how is this happening right now? It doesn't make sense. So I don't know. I'm not exactly positive what's going to happen, but I think they're going to start increasing the federal funds rate. I mean, they just did, obviously back in, was it August 23rd, we had the highest interest rate. I think it was like 7.23 or 7.4% in 22 years. It was the highest interest rate in 22 years. So the Fed is trying to artificially raise these rates to try to fix the market. So
Sure.
I don't know, what's going to happen with this. I don't know if come, end of September, they're going to raise it up to 8%. I don't know if it's going to go back to 10%. I don't know if you knew this, but back in 1980, like late 70s, early 80s, and if anybody's watching now that lived through this, drop a comment below on your experiences during this time. But the interest rates back then were like 16% for a mortgage. 16%. Could you imagine that? Like right now today, well, let's say we're at like 7.13% or something like that, low 7%. Imagine doubling that to 16%. Like we're like, if you think the rates are high now, imagine going back 40 years in time, 50 years in time and seeing those rates. Like it was a different ball game back then. And they did end up fixing those rates, but I believe we had a massive recession back then. So that's why I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the Fed's going to keep, increase. Obviously, there's no like, national federal mortgage rate. It basically goes off of the federal funds rate and then everybody adjusts from there. But I don't know what the Fed's going to do. Like, I don't know if they're going to try to purposely cause a recession to try to fix the broken market. Like, what do you think about that?
Of course, and I know this is like a disclaimer we keep making, but we have no
Yes.
idea, right? We're literally just going off of data. But to your point with that, and I don't love that comparison. The only reason why is just because home prices are so much higher now. So I sometimes think it's like an unfair comparison, right? Because okay, if my interest rate was 15%, but my mortgage was $75,000 versus now my mortgage is $500,000 at,
Yeah.
7%, so it's kind of like, I wonder how much it evens out. I'm sure there's some math we can do on that. But anyways, I
How are they
do
going to fix
think,
that?
right, like how, right, because prices are so high. And then it
Yeah.
comes into this position where it's like, do we just have to accept that that is what it is? I
The new
would,
norm?
it could be the new norm. House prices historically have always raised.
Always. Always.
Always they've always gone up. So is this just the new normal for us that here an average house is $600,000? I don't know. It's like, but would that surprise me? No. And the reason why, and this is just like a kind of a sad reality for like the everyday person, is because we also can't leave out of the equation these giant investors. We have
Mm.
REITs popping up like crazy. We have the everyday person becoming a real estate investor. We have these ginormous real estate funds. I mean, there's a tons of companies out there that are just buying up properties like crazy. Zillow was one of them. Open Doors another. There's ginormous companies out here buying up everyday homes that you and I would have bought. And again, that's another thing where it's like, okay, well, I'm waiting for this magical time when rates come down and inventory goes up. And then why would these big funds not be buying all those houses out from under us?
Yeah, I remember that happened with Zillow, and I can't remember exactly what happened. You probably remember better than me, but didn't they have to like circle back on what they were doing? Didn't it cause a big problem for them or something?
They got in pretty trouble. Yeah.
They got in
they
trouble, right?
got they got in trouble. They got in big trouble. And they got shut down. And
They
you
got
know,
shut down.
not but look at other, what is it, like Blackstone? I don't know if I'm saying that company properly, but like there are ginormous companies out here buying single family homes and renting them out. And you know,
Yeah.
it scares me because it does lead me to believe like one day, like I don't know that the next generations are going to be able to be homeowners. And that's like
Ooh.
partly, and I know that's a strong statement to make, but it's scary. Like, you know, not only are prices so high, but like I talked about, like when you have these ginormous corporations and companies coming in and then buying up whatever else is left, how are we going to get back to a point where the average person can buy a home? Not if it's not price, if it's not supply, if it's not the amount of renters. I mean, Andy, you live by me, you see these, like there's a community coming here, hundreds of homes, single family homes, nice single family homes, all rentals, fully managed by, I think it's called Solimar, and they
Yes.
will fully be rented out. They will not ever
Gone.
be sold, at least. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they won't be for sale. They are going to be owned by a corporation and rented out as if it was another apartment building. So again, it just like, you know, it's a scary reality of like, will the average person be able to buy a home, question mark, ever, if they don't already have equity in another to move over? So that's why I'm like so stressed, especially my first time home buyers. Like,
Ooh.
you can afford to buy a home now, like I would go for it, because renting's a scary reality too, of like you may get stuck in a place where like buying does become impossible. And I hope that's not the case. That's definitely worst case scenario, but you gotta, you know, you gotta see and keep your eye out on the fact that like these investors are popping up like crazy and they're buying the homes that you and I would have bought.
Now do you see why I'm like focusing on renters so much? Because
Yeah.
it's a weird time right now. It's a very weird time.
And you never
Like
slow
I
down with your renters. You never slow down.
literally never. Like I always like to say, like there's always a flat line. Like you'll always do a certain amount of business with renters. Like sometimes you'll do like more business, like a lot more. Sometimes you'll do a little bit more, but you'll always be right here. You're never gonna go like lower on rentals. That's how I envision it. And the way it's been for my last like 3.5 years of real estate, like it's never gone below, me doing like, at least 20 deals a month. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, yeah, I would do like 30, 33, 35, 40, but like it's never gone below like 20 deals a month for me. So that's why I think like rentals are so like recession proof, like bulletproof. Like if you're
Yeah.
working with renters as an agent, like you're basically never going to fail because everybody's always going to need a place to rent no matter what, the market does. But I also wanted to ask you really quickly, what do you think is going to happen with the election coming up? Because, you're big on the news, you're big on the stats and numbers. We know historically every time there's a presidential election, which is going to happen in, was it November 2024? I believe it's November. Correct me if I'm wrong. And
That
always the
sounds
rates
right.
go down. That sounds right. Yeah. So always, it could be December, but always the rates
Oh
go
no, it's
down. I
November.
know
It's
that.
November.
Is it November? Okay, good. I thought so.
I just wasn't
So
sure about the year. The
yeah,
politics
definitely
thing is,
next year. Yeah.
yeah, not my strong
Yeah.
suit. The real estate, yes. The politics, not as strong in.
Yeah, we always know, if you historically look at all the graphs, I did research on this, and the rates always go down, the mortgage rates, because the president that's trying to stay, get reelected again, they purposefully lower the rates, which is the federal funds rate.
Yeah.
Then obviously the mortgage rates go lower because of that. That always happens right before the election. Maybe like, anywhere from 3 to 6 months before the election happens, right around that time frame, the rates start going down because the president wants to make himself look better, become more
Okay.
favorable for, his constituents, and then they get reelected. So what do you think is going to happen come next year, almost a year from today? What do you think is going to happen with the housing market then?
So, I'm so no expert in this because again, 5 years into real estate, so I can't talk from past experience. However, if what you're saying is true, and historically we've all heard it. So again, if I'm a buyer, I'm interested in this market, but I'm scared. If I'm hearing like historically we know rates will probably go
They
down
will come
next
down.
year.
Yeah.
They oh my God, buy right now. Like I can't stress it enough, because guys, what's going to happen when these rates go down? Everybody else that was sitting on the fence thinking about buying is going to go buy. So then
They're
not
gonna go
only
buy.
are we going to jack up our prices once again, our inventory is going to get whacked out again. It's just, it's almost like inevitable at that point. So if I were them, I would do what my buyers are doing now, which I consider them to be actually very smart in their position. Are they buying high? Yes. I think that the market is pretty high right now. It's higher than it's ever been, in my opinion. However, they're going to be able to refinance next year instead of being in the pool of a ginormous pool of buyers that will be coming to the market and competing against them and paying 50K, 100K overvalue for a home again.
Just
I
like
mean,
we
I
did,
have I have a
last year
client. Yeah, I have a client
or
under
2 years ago.
contract
Yeah.
right now for 100K under ask. So, it's
Oof.
like, don't and it's not even $1 million plus home. It's not. It's, so like I don't want people to think that they have to be in that position where, like, not everybody's paying full price right now. Yeah, homes are going quickly, but you may be surprised about what you can get, because there are, like you said,
Yeah.
sellers that missed out on that school rush over the summer. And now, this is historically a slow time, this September, October. Like, you may be able to get a home for a lot less than you think. And I'd rather lock in a home lower now and then refinance later, versus being in that crazy pool of buyers, that
Rush.
20
Yeah.
offers, 100 people lining up to see a home. Like, I mean, what is to stop us from doing that again if interest rates get super low again?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking right now. Listen, what my philosophy and mindset, knowing all of this now, is I want a dollar cost average buying property. So obviously, I'm going to do it for more investment and more for myself as well. But for an investment standpoint, if you want a dollar cost average, buy a house now, buy a house next year, buy a house the year after that, you're never going to lose. Just like a stock market, if you're investing in the S&P 500, what do you want to do? You want a dollar cost average, because nobody can time the market. Obviously, everybody's not Warren Buffett. We're not all Warren Buffett. We can't time the market perfectly.
Yeah.
So we dollar cost average. You know what I mean? I think that's a very smart thing to do. So that's what I'm doing now. But I honestly, I am not 100% sure if the market is going to crash. Like, I don't know. Like, even after everything we've talked about now, like, we don't know. Like, if somehow, some way we get into a really bad recession, you would imagine the market will crash. I mean, it could be, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now. But like, how, I don't know, like what you said before, really rings true. Like, is this the new norm? Like, is everything just going to be this way? The prices are going to be this high. If interest rates go down, the prices will go higher. Like, is that just the new norm? Or is something major going to happen, like a catastrophe, and it's going to cause the market to crash because, the government's trying to correct this, and who
Right.
knows what's going to happen there, just by obviously raising interest rates. That's what would cause obviously a recession, of course. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a really interesting conversation. I feel like we could literally talk about it all day and get like
Yeah,
information and
yeah,
data from every source, but it's like, you're absolutely right. We can't predict it. We have no idea. Is it a fear in the market? I think it's always going to be a bit of a fear. I think, like you even said, like, will it take a catastrophe? Right. And that's kind of the key word. Like, will it take another like like what we had in
yeah, like a
2020? It's
pandemic.
not like
Yeah,
thank
I
God,
hope
knock on
not. I hope
wood.
not. Yeah,
Yeah,
I hope
hopefully
not.
we don't get that
Yeah,
all the time. Like, that was like a once in 100-year thing, what we went through in 2020. So, you know, hopefully things normalize a bit and we can see
yeah,
somewhat of like a balancing. Like you said, these interest rate raises, maybe they haven't been as successful here, but clearly, in according to the NAR, they've lowered prices 2%. Not a lot, but like,
yeah,
that's not a
yeah. But
lot.
it's
That's not a
working. Yeah, it's
lot,
working for
but
other
it's
places,
doing
which is good.
something, right? It's doing
Yeah,
something. 2% is better than nothing. So,
exactly. Yeah,
I could see a reality where, we don't go into a full on, I'm just talking real estate market
yeah,
crash,
yeah,
just because
yeah,
of our we have an inventory problem. I mean, you
yeah.
can't take that out of the equation, and you also can't take the investors out of the equation, because I think when a lot of people are just looking at the data and the price is dropping, houses market is crashing, but you can't forget what else is going on, right? You can't turn a blind eye to the inventory. You can't turn a blind eye into the investors that have now entered the market. There's a lot of other factors there rather than just prices dropping a little.
It's a combination, so
Yeah.
yeah, I know we could talk about this all day, but actually I want to circle back to you a little bit. We got off a little tangent there, but I know you're an expert in
It's
real
fun.
estate news and numbers and stuff, so I just want to pick
It's
your brain a
fun.
little bit, because you know a lot. You're a wealth of knowledge. So
Thank you.
going back to you a little bit, circling back, I know you said after your third year, you're doing about 250,000 in business, but now it's been 2 years since then. So you've been doing this, another 4 or 5 years, total now. So I remember our conversation yesterday. So this year, what do you think you're going to do this year in your business?
So my like big goal, and I've had this written down on my wall for 2 years now, but my big goal is 300. That would be my
Oof.
big like income goal. I mean, that would be absolutely crazy. Cause I think for me, like the other crazy thing is from my business growth was like from year 2 to year 3, I went from like, I just want to have a 6-figure year to having a multiple 6-figure year. Like that was insanity to me. Like that wasn't even like the goal was just to hit my first 6-figure year. I didn't even expect to go like to multiple 6 figures. But now, that's a high number and it's hard in real estate. It's hard to hit these big numbers. So, I'm not going to act like once you do it, you just keep doing it. You got to keep working really hard. So now, like if I could hit 300, I mean, again, it feels so crazy to say because it's like, I still have a hard time comprehending that, but that would be like my big goal. And as of this past month, I just hit, I'm like just over 10 million in sales. So I should be
So
able to,
250. Oof,
yeah. So I'm
yes.
getting
Wow.
closer.
You're going to
I
do it.
definitely, yeah, I'm really excited because I hit
Yeah.
10 million in sales as of August. So I feel like that still gives
Yes.
me a good few months to maybe get there.
So what do we have? We got about 4 months
September.
left, right?
Yeah,
About
yeah.
4 months left.
I
It's a
think
whole
it's
quarter. You
possible.
100%, not even think. I know you're gonna do it. So I did a lot of like I changed so much about myself, about positive mindset and like putting out positive energy, and like if you think something's gonna happen, like it does. Like I started doing that, and like it's working. Like what you think and what you put out there, like it'll happen. So you know it's gonna happen. Like you will hit this goal. Like
Yeah, I keep
I know
looking
you
over
will.
here. Like I have it
Yes.
on a sticky note on my wall. Literally, I've had it there for 2 years. I've had to rewrite it because it falls off.
Yeah.
But like I have it on a sticky note. It is important to know what your
Yeah,
goals
that's
are and
you can
to
see
know
them right
that.
here. I got vision
See the
boards. Yeah,
vision
I got
boards. Yeah, I have mine as
yes.
my computer background and it has it
Yeah,
on
you
there as
gotta.
well. And it sounds like big, scary goals, but it's something that I feel like I've been working hard towards. So hopefully we'll see.
Yo, you will. Yeah,
I
100%. I
will.
know
I
you're
will.
gonna
No,
do it.
you're right.
Yeah, I know you're gonna do it. Yeah, I know you're gonna do it because you're
I
doing all
still
the
have a
right
lot of
things.
that
Yeah.
imposter syndrome. I'm sure you can pick up on by
Yeah,
now.
yeah. But that's going away. Like from when I first met you, obviously, like you've transformed like your business so much, and just your personality, your mindset. Like you're more of like a hustler. Like you're a go getter. Like you're making things happen. And I think that's why everything took off for you. Because remember what you just told me the other day? Like you're too busy right now. Like talk about that a little bit because you said that you're overwhelmed right now, and you even have a team too, and you're still working what like 12, 16 hour days.
Yeah. So EXP, like I don't technically have like a traditional real estate team, but I do have agents that come and join me at EXP. So we have like our own little group in our mastermind, but I don't technically have like buyers agents and stuff like that. Like
Not
all
yet. You
the
will.
what yeah, I'm open to
Yes,
it. I'm like
you
I haven't
will.
gone down that road yet, but yeah, no, my group is really great and I have agents that I mentor, but for me right now it's just been all like individual sales volume. But yeah, so where I'm at right now is like Andy was asking me if I wanted to do something, and I was like, oh my God, I can't imagine taking on one more thing in my life right now. Which is again like a really great place to be like too busy in real estate. And it's funny because this really like started this year where I just felt like overwhelmingly busy. And I kept saying, like,
Yeah.
it's a season, real estate is cyclical, it's a season. But like you said, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe this is a new baseline because like
Mm-hmm.
it's been all year now and I have been like really like up, to the brink of like how much I can handle.
Well, I'll tell you. So what I've learned, in my past few years, I I've been like, tripling, doubling my income every single year. It's because of that momentum. And that's what you're experiencing right now. Like you're experiencing that momentum. So as long as you keep putting in those hours and working really smart, like I don't believe in that whole saying, like work smart, not hard. I think that's total baloney. Like you have to do both. Do you think
Yeah.
Elon Musk is just working smart? No, he's working hard and smart. You know what I mean? Like you're
Good
doing both.
point.
Like
I like that.
it is. It really is. Like you have like to be like at the highest level to succeed. I don't care what industry you're in. You have to do both. You have to work really hard and you have to work smart. You have to rely on other people, which you just said you're doing with your agents now, and then obviously you're going to start like expanding upon that. Like you have to keep changing, which is what you've done a lot of. Like you have to keep making mistakes, learning from your mistakes. Never making those same mistakes again, and then moving on. And growing. Like that's what you're doing, and you're seeing the results of that through momentum, which is obviously fueling your business. And that's why you're still busy. Like you just said at the beginning of the year, you were like, oh, this is going to go away. Like, I'm not going to be this busy the rest of the year, because maybe in the rest of your career, you've had like ups and downs, like it's been busy this month and then slow that month. But now you've built that momentum. It took you, what, like you say 4 years or so, give or take, 5 years or so to really build that momentum. But now you're seeing the fruits of your labor and everything's starting to take off. And I guarantee you, I promise you this, if you keep working at the same pace and you keep, really like reinvesting into yourself, like I know you just bought like camera equipment to start like upping your content game. Like if you keep doing things like that, and bringing on new team members and trying new things, you will keep growing. And then this, like what you just said before, your baseline, it's not going to be ups and downs anymore. You're going to be busy all the time because you're going to be constantly growing. Like that's what I foresee in you. And I think that's what's happening right now. And I want to ask you, do you like it?
Yeah, I do. So this past year, I kind of say like I like accidentally fell into luxury. It's not an accident. I need to stop saying
It's
that. Like
not. It's
I've been
not.
called
You
out on
did
it a
that.
few times, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you
so I
did
need
that.
to stop saying that. But it just feels like so crazy. This kind of goes back to lead gen, but I this past year, like I all of a sudden just I felt like out of nowhere just started getting like consistent $1 million plus clients.
Ooh,
And it
wow.
was really cool. Thank you. Like I did a double end closing, a 1.55 on each side. So that was like, a really big one. It was actually fully off market too, which was cool.
That's
But
almost
and then
50K, right?
yeah, I actually worked
Wow.
the buyer side. What it was so crazy. It was like off market, and the buyer agent happened to be like somebody I told about it. So then because I was on the buyer, like she brought me in on the buyer side so she could get it off market. It was the craziest thing. So I ended up being on both sides of that deal.
Was that the
One
biggest commission you've ever made?
no, the biggest commission I've ever
Ooh,
made was almost on a $5 million deal. So that's the most I've ever
Jesus.
closed. Yeah.
That's
So
like 100
that
grand.
was
That's like more.
it's
Wow.
crazy. It's crazy. It's
How,
crazy.
how, how does that feel getting a check that big for like the real estate agents out there watching this that, haven't even done a big deal yet? How does it feel to get like $100,000 check for one transaction?
It's insane. I mean, it's absolutely like I still like I literally get like sweating thinking like it's still that was this year too. Like it was all of a
Wow.
sudden this year. Like I just started like it felt like I literally fell into luxury, but some of that is really like
It
again
clicked.
building on it. So I take these listings. The off market one was kind of hard because we didn't really get to do content for that. But then I think it kind of springboarded me into getting these like I got a few big listings like $1 million plus, and I invested like you've talked about. I've invested a lot of money into marketing on those, a lot between doing luxury programs on them, getting them in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, but then also on top of that, bringing in photographer, videographer, drone specialist, spending $1,000 just on making a reel for a property. It's things that sound like really crazy, but what I did was like I knew once I got that $1 million listing, I was like, I want more of this. So, and it's fun and the properties are so cool, and it really ends up being a different ball game of real estate altogether. So it's funny because I like never had these aspirations of being like a luxury realtor. I actually thought it would be way too much work. But
Yeah.
I was like, I actually really enjoyed it. So what I did was like I started getting these luxury listings, and then the marketing from the amount of like time and money and energy I put into those luxury listings has then produced more. So that's been really cool too, because I actually got a call from somebody who had me on Facebook of all places. She said, I see the clientele you're working with. I see what you're doing because of these videos. And she was like, I think you have the clientele to sell my mom's $3 million home. So that
Wow.
it's like, again, it's like, all of a sudden now it feels like I'm niching into luxury, but it's like, I almost feel like I fall into these things. I kind of like, I'm not a super like,
Wow.
like,
You
let's just,
did it.
I try to go with the flow and let it happen.
Yeah.
And then again, like, so now I'm really like harnessing, like I take every listing that I get now that's over 1 million, it's like I am then I'm spending a lot of money. And, is there a chance they don't close? Absolutely. But the way that I look at it is like, that's going to be marketing for me. So that's going to
Risk
be
reward.
what's now positioning me in the luxury area to continuously get more luxury clients because the proof is there. So like you have to prove to people, right? That like, why would I trust you with a $3 million home if I've never
Yes.
even seen you sell anything over 500,000? So it's like I
Yes.
took that one luxury and I just ran with it and I kept going. And now every luxury listing that I've gotten this year, I've spent a lot of money on content for, but
Because,
thankfully it's
yeah,
paid off.
it paid off big time because and now you're building credibility for yourself. But this even circles back into what you were saying before, how you niche down into social media. That is like you keep saying like, oh, I fell into it, but you didn't because of your conscious decision and all of your efforts creating all of that content, it led you to this. If you
Mm.
hadn't done all of that, do you think this would have happened?
No, you're
No, it wouldn't
absolutely
have.
right. You're
It wouldn't have.
absolutely
You did
right.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you
the
set
social
yourself
media
up
has
years ago.
helped. Right. And it's like, it's funny because, I always thought like I just need to keep growing, keep growing, keep growing. I need to get my numbers bigger and bigger. But honestly, like these are results from an audience I already had. It's just like I
Yes.
pivoted my marketing now into, the brand positioning change. Now I just spent, I just hired my website developer to come in and make a new website. It's all about just changing up the branding and now niching down into a more luxury market, which I wasn't ready for in the beginning. And that's okay. Not everybody's comfortable with that. It's taken me years to even get comfortable there. So it's been cool. It's so much of it has progressed over time. It's so funny because I feel like in the beginning it was so formulaic. It was like do open houses every weekend and then you'll get a client and then work that client and then do another open house. It was so formulaic. And now, like we've talked about, like it's crazy how much you pivot in this business.
Yeah, because if it's not working, then you got to try something new. Like even for some people, I know we had that guy Max, that's like an open house expert, with the
Yeah.
Philbeck team, and all he does is open houses, and he's crushing it doing that because he puts all of his time and energy. He's not just doing one open house a week; he's doing like 5 or 6, a week. So he's like the expert in that, or we got guys like Ricky Carruth who are the cold calling first sale by owner experts. So he put all his energy, devoted all his time into for sale by owner cold calling, and he blew up, making $1 million a year doing that. We got guys like Dwayne, who's the door knocking expert, like Juan, who's the systems guy. I mean, me, who's the rental guy, like you, social media, like everybody is there. You're finding a niche. The most successful agents or just entrepreneurs in general, they're just doing one thing and focusing on that one thing and doing it really well, doing it better than everybody else. And that's why you're seeing all of this success. Like I'm really proud of you. You did like an amazing transformation. Like I
Thank
can't even wait to
you.
see. You're welcome. Like going forward, since now you're starting to get these luxury $1 million plus deals, like you're gonna probably go even harder on social media, but now you're going to be doing content with $1 million plus homes, which is then going to
Yeah.
bring you in more $1 million plus listings. Like you see how that works?
Yeah, no, it is. It's really cool. So much of this business builds on itself. And so, like I had a just pretty discouraging first year and I'm so happy with where I'm at and sticking with it. And it's a business that really does. Like I see my first year agents, I mentor quite a few agents here locally. And it's like, I know it's discouraging. I know you get told no all the time in the beginning and people don't trust you. So, you got to start building up that trust somewhere. And, you're somebody that came in and crushed it off the bat, but that's not the case for a lot of people. And
Mm-mm.
so it's really cool, like seeing how after year, and like you said, you've doubled and tripled your business year after year too. Like it really does grow on itself. So if you're discouraged, especially if a newer agent, like I can't stress enough, like keep doing it because you'll see like those conversations you had in year 1 are now a lead in year 5. So it's really cool the way that it builds on itself. Like I'm talking as if I've been in this business for 20 years, but like I'm serious, like the 5 years in and so much of my business is thank God from the hard work I put in the first few years.
Well, I think, what you just said, like, no, like you have actually done more in your 5 years than most real estate agents do in 20 years. So in my mind, you have the credibility to speak like you're a 20-year veteran agent or more, maybe a 30-year veteran agent because of what you've done. Like you've done so well. Most agents, I believe the average agent makes, around $60,000-$70,000 per year.
It's lower.
Correct me in
I
the
think it's
comments.
like
Is it lower?
40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
Is
like
it, is it 40?
45. I think
Oh,
it's closer to
geez.
45.
Okay, so yeah, because imagine that then. So even just do the numbers. If an agent's been doing this for 20 years, only making 45,000 a year, well, you've done over $1 million commission in 5 years. So guess what? You have the wisdom and experience of a 20, 30-year veteran just right there. That's the way I look at it. That's why, I respect you so much because you've done so much with the little amount of time that you've been given.
Thank you. And same to you. I mean,
Yes.
it's been an absolute pleasure watching you, and it's unreal. Like I literally rave about you to everybody. I'm like, if anybody
Oh,
wants to do
I mean to you
rentals,
too. Same
it's
thing.
Andy. No, it's like
Yeah.
I'm like hands down, like what you have created is insane. And like if I have agents getting in that like really need to make a few extra dollars in the beginning to survive, it's like you need to learn Andy's rental strategy because that will at least pull you through. I know not everybody
Oh
wants to
yeah.
be the king of rentals like you are, but
I
like
know.
even if you just need like to get through and not do what I did, which was work at the law firm part-time,
Yeah.
like if you don't want to keep having like these other part-time jobs, like might as well be in real estate and doing rentals.
Yeah, you can make an extra 5-10 grand a month. You know what I mean? Just side money really fast. Like it's not that big of a deal. So, I mean, anybody that wants to learn rentals, reach out to me. I do coaching now. So
Oh yeah,
definitely,
no, you
email me for
you
that.
have
Yeah.
it down. Right before we
I
got
got
on
a
this
system.
call, like you got this text, like, dude, I'm making like 10K this month, and I think you've been coaching this guy for like a
Oh,
week,
that's
bro.
right. A week, 1 week. You know what? You're right. I forgot about that. I got to call him after this. Yeah. 1 week and he's making 10K already, after a week of
Insane.
training. He's got four deals under contract after a week. Like what the hell? So I mean, yeah, it's incredible. So
Proofs in the
last thing
pudding.
I know we've been, oh, sorry, what'd you say?
No, I just said the proofs in the
Oh, yeah.
pudding. Like it works. You have a
Proof
system
to the
that works.
pudding, proofs to the pudding. Exactly. And so do you. So, last thing, yeah, I know we've been on here for a while. I want you to give me like, talk to a new agent. Like, what's your one piece of, if you have to give one piece of advice to a new agent, what would you say? What advice would you give them?
Oh man, that's a tough one. One piece of advice to a new agent.
Your number one
Um,
tip.
I would just have to say stick with it. Like if there's anything that I've learned, it's that like it does pay off, but you have to stay in real estate. Like it's not going to pay off if you try this for a year and leave. So you got to stick with whatever you're doing, whatever. Like I think we've made it pretty clear niching down is important. So pick something and stick with it. Keep doing it. You can make money any which way in real estate. You can be the best person in your area in real estate and all you do is open houses, all you do is cold calling, social media, like you said, there's a guy that's good at something and you can be that. No
Yes.
matter what it is, you can be successful in this business. There's a million ways to go about it. So it would just be pick something, stick with it, don't give up on this career. I know it sucks, but like it's not always
It gets
beautiful and
better.
amazing and paychecks, and it does get better. Exactly. That first year is not easy, but if you can make it through that, you can keep going and you'll make it.
Well, that's amazing, Jess. Thank you so much for coming on here. Where can everybody find you?
I'm at Jessica Baskies, which is I'm sure you'll put it in the comments, but Jessica
Put it in the, yeah,
Baskies, one word. Yeah, it's my first and last name. And then we have the
in
Agent
your
Retreat
podcast.
podcast, the Agent
Where could they
Retreat.
find that?
That's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And Andy's actually helping me get it set up on video. So we're in a bit of
That's
a,
right.
a lull right now, and then we'll relaunch probably with video and audio pretty soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see that and be your first guest on there as well.
Oh, I would love that. I have to figure out. Oh my gosh, that's pressure though. I have to figure out how to do interviews
Yeah.
now too.
Oh, they're easy.
it's
They're simple.
it's funny when I had like the simple, like this, like super simple setup, like I was doing everything, but now I'm like throwing it all away and starting over on the podcast. So
You'll
it'll be
learn. You're
interesting.
you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn. I have a lot
Yeah.
of faith in you. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button, drop a comment below, and hit subscribe. And that's it. That's all I got for you. And I'll catch everybody in the next one. All right.
Subscribe.
We're done.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.